France, the United Kingdom, and India, well, they're all doing it. Now, one lawmaker would like California to follow their lead and phase out gasoline and diesel-fueled vehicles. When the legislature returns in January, State Assemblyman Phil Ting plans to introduce a bill that would ban the sale of new cars powered by internal combustion engines after 2040. Now, California already committed 5 years ago to putting 1.5 million zero-emissions vehicles on the road by 2025.
And joining us more to talk about this bill is State Assemblyman Phil Ting. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Phil.
My first question, really?
Yes, absolutely. Look, France is doing it, England's doing it, India's taking a look at doing this. This is a 100-year-old technology. This is like having the most efficient abacus doing our bookkeeping for us. This is ripe for disruption, and by the time it's gone, it's going to be like the cab industry. We're going to wonder why we didn't do it sooner.
Okay, we've already got, what, 150,000 or so electronic vehicles in the state of California. The idea is to clean up the air. We have, I think, half the amount of electrical vehicles, or half of the electrical vehicles in the country are here in California. People just aren't buying them.
Well, right now it's because we haven't produced one that's really mass market adoptable and the price is right. Now we have the Chevy Bolt, we got the Tesla Model 3 coming out, we have a newer Nissan Leaf coming out. So you have models that actually fit consumers' needs. If you think about it, 40 years ago, right, we're talking about 2040, 40 years ago, the internet wasn't invented, personal computers weren't invented. Right. We had a company that was really at top of the heap called Kodak. Now they're gone.
Okay, but the market forces determine that.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you got a good product and something that people want, they're going to buy it. So why not just let the market deal with it? Why have to impose a ban?
Part of it is we're doing our part to create subsidies and interest in terms of electric vehicles, so we're hoping that the market definitely takes off. There's no question. But at some point, you have to do something about the pollution that's in the air. So when you know that the pollution is causing this, this is saying to the automakers, hey, this is a line in the sand. At some point, you have to really start moving toward this line.
Okay, but they are moving towards it. Now, how much of this is saying we've tried incentives, and they said no to continuing them. So we've tried incentives, we've tried breaks in HOV lanes, we've done those different things. Other people say, well, what you're trying to do is jack up the price of gasoline, and that didn't work. And as long as gas is cheap, it's not going to work. So the only alternative is to just ban them outright and say, no, we're going to make you buy electric, whether you like it or not, and whether you can afford it or not.
So we're going to keep going with incentives. We're going to continue with my bill, AB 1184, this next year in the legislature as well, to make sure that we put more money into subsidies. The other thing is, by the time 2040 comes around, we don't even know if we're going to be buying cars at all. It's very questionable whether we'll even be driving cars, whether that's autonomous, what kind of cars there is. If you look at everybody who's looking at the autonomous world, they're all looking at electric vehicles. They're not looking at gas vehicles. If you look at GM, they purchased a car company. They're outfitting Chevy Bolts to do electric vehicles. So this is clearly where the direction the rest of the world's going. Norway's talking about it. Most of the European countries are talking about it. Germany, India, China. This is something that's not very far-fetched.
Okay, but if everybody in California had an electric car and everybody went home at night and plugged it in, what would that do to the electrical grid? Do we even have the power to handle this?
Well, we're ramping up the power, right? And we're also talking about building huge amounts of renewable energy here in California. We know we can do it. It's just a matter of making sure that we have the will to do it.
Now, one of the big questions when this has come up before is who gets to regulate this. And before it was the Clean Air Board, and everybody was afraid that they would be putting regulations in behind the scenes that would require people to buy electric cars. You're just coming out and saying it straight up. What do you actually think the chances are that your fellow lawmakers are going to go along with something like this, being so obvious in what they're doing?
Well, I think it's very, one, the legislature should be the one setting the policy, not the Air Board or some other board. But we're going to have a debate. That's what the whole legislative process is all about.
All right, and so if we even get the cars off at 2040, how long does it take before we're totally electric? Because people have already had cars; they're going to drive them for 20 years.
That part's not clear. So some of the countries that have been debating this are actually saying they're going to ban the sale, and then by a certain date they're going to not allow any kinds of cars. I don't know if we're going to be doing that because it's hard. I don't want to be in the car collection business.
Other question.
Yes.
All right, we ban the sale. What keeps me from going to Nevada or Oregon and buying the car and bringing it here?
Nothing does until you need to register it in California.
So you wouldn't allow us to register them either?
That's the way that we can regulate the car process, is through registration.
Okay, well, that's going to be very interesting. I am going to be watching this one. I think all of California is going to be watching this thing to see just how much gas you have to take it through the legislature.
Or how much electricity.
Exactly, how much juice you have to take it through the legislature. Thank you for joining us this morning, Assemblyman Phil Ting.